Before we start the video, please don't be a Baka and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. I will assure you your little effort will help me a lot. Now back to the video. Meanwhile, outside the shield, Steven stands holding the bone, but he finds himself unable to harm the monster even a little. Feeling anxious, he wonders why the big bone is not working at all, considering that he might be unable to bring out the weapon's true strength. Looking at the monster, he also considers the possibility that he is weaker than the creature, rendering it impossible for him to compete with it. Watching him from a distance, the other disciples also feel anxious, while one of them suddenly tells them to look in a particular direction. Confused, they all look in that direction, where an overwhelming power suddenly emerges from the lightning shield, followed by Jian's appearance. Watching him tear through the royal skill, Steven feels shocked and considers it impossible. Looking at Jian, the monster also realizes that Jian poses a threat and decides to focus on killing him instead of aiming for the divine artifact. Therefore, he turns to Jian and lets out a loud roar while Jian, standing in front of it, raises his head and tells it to shut its mouth. The command has an immediate effect, causing the monster to crash behind it, destroying the ground, and forcing the disciples and Steven to move aside. Lying on the ground, the monster finds it impossible to believe that a human possesses such authority and asks if Jian is not human. In response, Jian lifts his foot and stomps it on the ground, further pushing the monster back. Seeing it, Steven is consumed by utter shock and considers it impossible. Thinking that only one person can have this power, he finally realizes that the person standing in front of him is indeed Li Jian. Just then, Jian turns to him, expressing his pleasure at meeting Steven and stating that he feels like Steven has been having a great time destroying his name. Trembling with fear, Steven begins to drift backward, stating that there is no way he can be Li Jian. Saying so, Steven tries to hit Jian with all his might using the big bone. However, to his shock, when he opens his eyes after the attack, he finds Jian holding the bone and smiling. Stating that he seems to be having a lot of fun with this bone, Jian barehandedly breaks the bone into pieces, asking what he will do without it. Looking at the broken bone, Steven is left in shock, while Jian states that he has been hitting him hard, and now it is his turn. With that, he punches Steven in the face so hard that he crashes onto the ground, shaking the entire building, and lets out a loud scream. After brutally hitting him for a while, Jian throws Steven down from a great height. Hearing Steven's loud screams, Sophie, who was unconscious, suddenly opens her eyes and wonders why she was sleeping there, feeling her head hurting a lot. Looking at the deep hole formed in the ground, Jian laughs, expressing his hope to meet Steven again, while Hugo feels shocked and asks Jian if he dropped Steven from such a great height. Turning to Hugo, Jian inquires about the hostages held by the monster. Hugo informs him that they have all been rescued and are quite happy. Jian then takes out Pishu and instructs it to fetch all the usable stuff from there. While Pishu is doing that, Jian tells Hugo that he has another person with him and they will take him along, and Hugo asks if it is the person who lent Jian his cell phone. In response, Jian agrees, stating that his name is Sungjae, which leaves Hugo shocked. Unable to believe it, Hugo asks about the name again, and Jian reveals it to be Cheon Sungjae. Jian states that he is associated with Gemini and is strong enough to be on the level of a divine cadre captain, and despite being young, he is very bright. In response, Hugo holds his head in anxiety, wondering if Sungjae really got caught up in a walking disaster like Jian. Looking at his expressions, Jian wonders what has happened, while Hugo thinks that he was being careful that his children, being Jian fanatics, never come to know about Jian being alive. However, considering the possibility of them knowing it, Hugo realizes that his family will soon be in shambles. While he is thinking about that, Jian states that the divine cadre captain of Gemini can use teleportation and suggests calling him, but Hugo stops him, stating that they should leave. Confused, Jian asks for the reason, and Hugo states that they should already be sick of them and should not bother getting involved with them. Hearing that, Jian remembers his experience with them and states that they have indeed been pissing him off. Hearing that, Hugo quickly turns around, stating that they do not like him. They then begin to walk away while Jian shares that he decided to keep an eye on them but has changed his mind, and Hugo agrees, stating that those children are not worth giving attention to. Just then, Sungjae calls out to him from behind, addressing him as father, leading him to feel nervous. As he turns around, he finds Sungjae standing behind him, who asks if by Jian he meant Li Jian, leading him to feel pressured. Overwhelmed with anxiety, Hugo turns to Sungjae, asking why he is there, while Sungjae demands to know the truth, asking if the kids he was talking about were referring to him. Suddenly, the blood of the dead monsters spilled in the surroundings begins to transform into tentacles once again, calling out to Jian. Hearing that, Jian turns around when the blood tentacles come towards him with great speed. However, just as they are about to touch him, Lime appears in front of him and begins taking all of them. As a result of Lime consuming them, he gains the ability of poison resistance. After staying silent for a while, Jian turns to Lime, begins to scold him for eating it randomly, and tells him to spit it out. While he is doing that, Hugo looks at the monster lying on the ground and wonders if it came out of its remains. Looking at Lime, Sunjae feels shocked as he remembers reading about it in a book and recognizes it as Jian's divine artifact. Considering the incredible ability Jian has shown, his rough magic power, his father's friendly attitude towards Jian, and the lime he is holding, Sunjae asks if he really is Li Jian. Realizing it, Sunjae becomes overwhelmed with happiness and begins to scream out of excitement, intensifying Jian's frustration. Meanwhile, in the United States, at the headquarters of Leo Divine Cadre, a meeting goes on in Leo's executive meeting room. The Leo Divine Cadre captain, Oliver, states that they still haven't been able to find Castellan after their disappearance and suggests taking help from Gemini to find them. Hearing that, one of the participants in the meeting reminds him of his argument with Sunhyuk and asks if they will agree to help after that. The person also states that they have heard that the person who beat up their saint was Li Jian. Hearing that, Oliver asks if it sounds right to them, and even if it is really the case, he was still taken down by Jian's hands once before, calling him the strongest among all saints. Just then, a song in Jian's praise begins to play, leaving all the participants in the meeting surprised. Suddenly, Leo's vice castellan Shion Yua, sitting on the opposite side, takes her phone out, apologizes, and states that she forgot to set it on vibrate. Feeling annoyed at her attitude, Oliver states that this meeting has been arranged to find Steven and she should take it seriously. In response, Yua asks why they even need to look for him, leaving them all shocked. Browsing through her phone, she states that he has a tough body, so he will surely survive somehow, and they do not need to look for him. Hearing that, Oliver states that, as the vice castellan and one of the 10 stars, she should be taking action herself. Just then, she receives messages from her brother, telling her that they have a new uncle at their house and asking her to hurry up and reach home. Reading the messages, she wonders who that person will be and gets up from her chair, stating that she will be heading home and telling them to do their best. Stating that, she leaves the meeting room, causing Oliver to feel increasingly frustrated at her attitude. Meanwhile, at the Aquarius Sanctuary in Safi's residence, countless reporters gather, demanding to know the answers to their questions regarding Li Jian. Dealing with them, her team members tell them to go away for that day, stating that she needs to rest. They state that they will give them the answers to all of their questions through an official announcement soon and request that they go back. Looking at them from a window, Sophie feels enraged at Jian and starts biting her nails, wondering how much trouble he is going to cause. She remembers facing countless people after getting out of the auction house. While walking out, her pendant suddenly began to glow and displayed a message from Li Jian, stating that he is alive and telling her to reveal the truth about what happened 20 years ago. Remembering that, she wonders what to do, considering that she will be in danger in both ways if she reveals the truth or conceals it. Realizing the trick that Jian has played against her, she feels increasingly frustrated and begins to scream loudly. Meanwhile, Jian sits in the house wondering what to cook for the meal while Hugo watches the news about Sophie refusing to give any statements to the media. Hearing that, he takes a deep breath and remarks that it is not good. The next morning, in Hugo's house, Hugo and Jian practice shooting arrows at the target. Holding a unique bow, Hugo looks at the target while Jian asks if he likes the new weapon, and he agrees, stating that they are the best and incomparable. With that, Jian begins to shoot arrows at Hugo's target, prompting him to ask if he really has to do it like that. Covering his eyes with a piece of cloth, Jian states that shooting arrows is fun. Feeling angry, Hugo states that Jian is taking away his targets on purpose, while Jian laughs, stating that making fun of Hugo is so much fun. Just then, Jian turns around to see Sunjae holding a tray with a drink and a towel for him, and he thanks him. Seeing that, Hugo becomes jealous and walks towards Sunjae, asking him to bring some water for his father. In response, Sunjae rudely states that it is in the fridge and he can go and get it if he wants, causing Jian to laugh. While Sunjae is mocking his father's appearance, Jian thinks that his abilities seem to have improved quite a lot and decides to check them. Just as he opens the status window, he is informed that a sanctuary of a serpent has been formed for him, but because of the low level, the space has been confined. While reading details about it, Jian is informed that Pishu can now be moved into the sanctuary, and he can also strengthen the power of the sanctuary. While he is thinking about it, Sungjae says that Jian was talking about leaving, and since he also has to leave, he suggests leaving together, prompting him to ask if it is time already. Hearing about an appointment, Hugo feels surprised, while Jian informs him that he has to meet a lot of people that day. After a while, in a restaurant, Sung-hyuk sits at a table with a huge tray of fried chicken placed before him and asks if he is interested in joining Gemini. In response, Jian, who is sitting on the other side of the table and busy eating chicken, remarks that he never gets tired of it. Sung-hyuk states that gathering talent is a very important thing he must do despite being busy. In a threatening tone, Sung-hyuk states that he must not be planning to buy items worth millions at the auction using Gemini's money and simply walk away. In response, Jian stays silent for a moment and then begins to wipe his face, making Sung-hyuk think that he was really considering such a plan. Meanwhile, Jian thinks that, although he initially found it annoying, joining Gemini might be a good opportunity. After dealing with Yang Wei, Sophie, and Steven, he decides that his next target would be the Gemini Saintess. Therefore, he agrees to join Gemini, and Sung-hyuk moves towards deciding a date for baptism, but Jian states that he has a condition to join. He then points to the badge Sung-hyuk is wearing and demands to have it. Hearing that, Sung-hyuk's subordinates become angry and state that the Saintess gave the badge to the captain herself, making it impertinent for him to ask for it. After a small pause, Sung-hyuk asks if Jian wants the badge to make use of the benefits that come with being part of Gemini's divine cadre. In response, Jian states that he needs something tangible that can prove whatever he claims to be correct and considers that he can at least invest that much in talent. In response, Sung-hyuk asks for some time to think it over, surprising his subordinate. Jian tells him to hurry up, stating that he has another appointment after that and turns to his phone to inform Sungjae that he might be a bit late. In response, Sungjae tells him to take his time and informs him that his sister will be a little late too. Sungjae, who is sitting in an ice cream parlor, hopes Jian will like the ice cream there. He wonders how surprised his sister will be to hear about Jian and thinks that he will be able to see her shocked face for the first time. Taking out the dagger, Sungjae decides to get Jian's autograph on it when he comes. Just then, someone snatches it from him, asking why he is playing around with a dangerous thing like that. The person standing in front of him takes the dagger away and states that he will be confiscating it. He is an A-rank disciple of Gemini named Yoon Sherwoo. Feeling enraged at him, Sungjae gets up and demands to have the dagger back, while Sherwoo remarks on the tone that he is using to talk to his superior. Looking at him, Sungjae feels enraged, thinking that just because he is a little older, he always treats him like that, and he wishes that he would be able to crush his head. Considering that Sherwoo is the son of the Libra saint, Sungjae understands that he cannot do whatever he wants with him. Therefore, he simply asks Sherwoo to return the dagger, stating that he is not aware of what the item is. In response, the two boys accompanying Sherwoo force Sungjae to lie on the table and tell him to lower his voice, gaining the attention of all the people in the cafe. This behavior further intensifies Sungjae's anger. Looking at his reaction, Sherwoo wonders why Sungjae became so angry and asks if the dagger is something Lee Jian made or a memento of his sleeping mother. Hearing that, Sungjae bursts into anger, which causes the dagger's power to activate, sensing its owner is in danger. This causes a bright light to emerge from it, leaving Sherwoo shocked and confused. Just then, a head emerges from within the dagger and collides with Sherwoo's face, leaving everyone shocked. As a consequence of this unexpected attack, Sherwoo drops the dagger and loses his balance. Looking up towards them, Sungjae is overjoyed to see Jian standing in front of him, while Jian is also surprised at his sudden appearance. Sungjae asks how he knew to come there, and Jian states that he was at the chicken restaurant, but the consumable summon skill he left in the dagger was probably activated. Jian then turns to Sherwoo and his companions, asking if these people tried to threaten him. Turning to the two standing behind him, Jian asks how they dared to do that to his nephew, causing them to feel scared. In a threatening and cruel tone, Jian states that he will ingrain in their bones what happens if they lay their hands on something that is his, causing them to feel further scared. A few moments ago, at the chicken restaurant, Sung-hyuk agreed to give the badge to Jian. Sung-hyuk thought that this much is nothing if he could haul a big catch like Jian and would recover it as a special condition after Jian joins the divine cadre. Therefore, he handed the badge to Jian, asking him to avoid using it carelessly, and told his subordinate to take out the contract for him to sign immediately. However, just then, Jian was summoned at the ice cream parlor and disappeared from the table, leaving them bewildered. Following this, they received a hefty bill for the chicken that Jian consumed, intensifying their shock. After a while in the ice cream parlor, Shuwoo's two companions lie unconscious on the ground while Jian is busy punching Shuwoo in the face. To threaten him, Shuwoo states that he is an A-rank Gemini disciple and the son of a company chairman. However, this does not have any impact on Jian, and he keeps hitting Shuwoo regardless of the consequences. Shuwoo then states that he is the son of a Libra saint, but Jian still does not stop, prompting him to ask Jian to listen to what he is saying. After getting badly beaten, Shuwoo crashes to the ground while Jian tells him to get up, stating that he is just getting started, causing him to wonder why his defense magic is not working. Enraged at such treatment, Shuwoo clenches his fists and states that Jian should not get so confident just because of something like that. With that, he summons a gigantic Polaris' bull that stands facing Jian. Looking at Shuwoo using magic in a public area, the people at the cafe start to run away to save themselves from the impact. Meanwhile, Shuwoo laughs, stating that this is a punishment for Jian for acting so arrogant. However, to his surprise, Jian stands still, stating that he thought Shuwoo had an amazing skill up his sleeve, but he would not be able to even light up a briquette with these flames. Saying that, he uses his skill to suppress the magic and acquire all the data about the Polaris' bull. Seeing that, Shuwoo feels shocked and asks if Jian was a magician. In response, Jian states that he is a blacksmith. After acquiring the skill data, the system asks him if he would want to use the data as a skill, and he states that it is now his turn to show how to really use fire. Stating that, he converts the data into a skill and summons a Polaris' bull behind him. Following his command, the bull directs a strong beam of fire toward Shuwoo, causing him to experience immense agony. As a result of being hit by a powerful beam, Shuwoo goes flying backward and crashes into a wall. Going near him, Jian threatens to burn him for real if he touches Sungjae again. Turning to Sungjae, Jian states that if he meets people like them again, he should just call him, assuring him that he always has his uncle's back, making him feel happy. While they are talking, Sungjae's sister, Yuha, suddenly enters and calls out to him. Observing the ruined cafe, she is taken aback and asks what caused the destruction. Stating that it is not important, Sungjae tells her to look at Jian. He praises Jian as a hero who has triumphed over numerous calamities and saved humanity countless times, introducing him as the protagonist of the movie they watched repeatedly. As they gaze at Jian, memories of his past appearance flood their minds, and Sungjae reveals that he is, in fact, Lee Jian. This revelation shocks and startles her, prompting her to pinch herself to ensure she's not dreaming. She considers it impossible for him to be Lee Jian, stating that he is way too handsome. She remembers that 20 years ago he was covered with scars and states that after being in the Demon Tower for 20 years, she expected him to be in an even worse state. However, after a while, she states that his appearance is not important and smiles, expressing her happiness to see him alive and well. Just then, Sungjae playfully intervenes, teasing her not to get too excited, causing her to feel embarrassed. Jian turns to her and warmly greets her, and she reciprocates, thanking him for helping her brother. Jian reassures her not to be nervous, stating that if she is Hugo's daughter, then she is his niece. Realizing that Jian is in a good mood, she asks him for a favor, apologizing for making a request right away, and Jian asks what it is, expecting it to be a request for an autograph. After a small pause, she is about to voice her request when a gigantic calamity suddenly emerges from the cafe's floor. This shocks Jian, causing him to wonder if it was her request all along. Looking at it, Yuha quickly turns towards it, holding a spear in her hand. Watching her, Jian calls out to her with concern, but she tells him to wait, stating that she will make a proper proposal after killing the calamity. The very next moment, she starts to run towards the monster with a fierce intent in her eyes, while Jian and Sungjae keep standing still, gazing at her from behind. After some time, the news of the calamity's emergence of the calamity is spread throughout the city, and people are informed to quickly evacuate to the shelters. Soon after, the sky fills with dragon-like creatures, and gigantic leeches emerge from the ground, wreaking havoc in their wake. In the midst of this, Yuha stands firm, spear in hand, ready to take action. With swift and precise movements, she begins to slay the monsters one by one, her determination fueled by the desire to finish the battle quickly and propose to Jian. Deciding to take out all the monsters in one go, she gathers all her strength and swings her spear in a powerful circular motion. After that, she stomps her foot on the ground with full force and thrusts her spear upward, warning the creatures not to interfere with her proposal. Soon after, the spear strikes one of the dragons, triggering a chain reaction that leads to a massive explosion, wiping out all the monsters in one go. As she stands safely away from the destruction, Jian arrives, reassured by her exceptional combat skills, even surpassing Hugo's. Just then, she turns towards him, addressing him as uncle, when suddenly another gigantic calamity appears behind her, which she fails to notice. However, before the calamity can attack, Jian rushes forward and saves her and Sungjae from the attack. Just then, a strange creature appears above the monster's head and addresses Jian, impressed by his ability to dodge its attack. The creature expresses interest in taking Jian as its pet, while the monster continues to emit hot lava from its mouth. The creature asks why they are playing with fire, while Jian states that it is a good chance since he needed a blast furnace to create more divine artifacts. With a cruel smile, Jian states that he will be taking it in as gas burner number 1, while the creature also smiles, considering it fun to train such a human. Looking at those creatures, Yuha and Sungjae realize that they are from the fantasy race. Yuha states that she has to stop them, but Jian intervenes, asking why she is looking so serious and if she is thinking about fighting alone again. Jian tells them to leave that to their uncle and instead work to keep the surroundings safe. Jian states that he is leaving this task to them because he knows that they are strong, and they should also trust him and leave it to him. In response, both of them smile and excitedly agree, while Jian turns towards the monster. With Sungjae and Yuha backing him up with their powers, Jian states that it is time for them to have some fun. Just then, the creature sitting above the monster uses its rope to tie Jian up, telling him to struggle as much as he can. The creature states that this makes it even more worthwhile to train him. With that, it swings its rope roughly, causing the land beneath them to be destroyed. Amidst this destruction, Jian sits tied up by the rope. After a while, he looks up, stating that it is all style and no substance, and breaks the rope with a single move of his arms, asking if that is all it has got. In response, the creature smiles, stating that it is not the case, which causes the monster to unleash a massive fire inferno in his direction. This causes a massive, earth-shattering blast to erupt from the land. Looking at the destruction spreading, Sungjae starts directing people to quickly move towards the shelter. After successfully completing his task, he stands, feeling relieved and confident. After a while, he comes to Yua, telling her that he has evacuated all the civilians, while she seems engrossed in the scene unfolding before her eyes. In front of her are massive clouds of smoke, covering the entire area. She thinks that even though Jian is very strong, the opponent is a fantasy race and is above a red rank, so Jian will have a tough time facing it. She is also worried about the fact that he might be facing some side effects after staying in the Demon Tower for so long and thinks that she must help him if that is the case. Thinking that, she begins to run towards the monster, telling Sungjae to hide somewhere while he keeps stopping her and reminding her of what Jian told them. Meanwhile, Jian stands still facing the monster in the middle of the city that has now turned to ashes, causing the monster to think that Jian must have faced a similar fate. However, to their shock, Jian stands unharmed amidst the flames, remarking that the flame should at least be this hot and that the ones that Shiwu used were very minute. With that, Jian gives a cruel grin, stating that he has chosen the creature as his forging flame gas burner. Staring, the creature feels shocked, wondering how he managed to survive in that fiery pit. After acquiring some of the flames from the creature, Jian summons a production hammer and gets a notification that the flame he can use in the creation workshop has been detected. After that, the system asks him to choose a subject for strengthening, and he looks at the cube of fire in his hand, stating that his subject for strengthening is this, and strikes it with the hammer. Feeling confused at what he is doing, the creature states that it will not let him do that, whatever it is. However, before it can launch an attack, Yua comes from behind and activates her thunderclap skill, causing the monster to experience immense agony. However, to Yua's surprise, the creature appears unscathed and blocks her attack by holding her spear. It then pushes her away, causing her to crash into a nearby building and cough up blood. Turning to its pet monster, the creature tells it that she is its meal, instructing it to devour her. In response, the monster rushes towards her and opens its mouth to consume her. However, before it can do that, someone pulls it away, leaving Yuha astonished. Standing between her and the monster is Jian, who strikes the monster so hard that it goes crashing back. Witnessing this, the creature feels shocked, wondering how Jian flung such a formidable monster like a hell lizard with his bare hands. Turning to the creature, Jian states that he will kill them if they touch her again, while a massive serpent appears behind his back. Seeing it, the creature realizes that it will be the one who will be devoured. Considering that it is a fantasy race that cannot be defeated by a human, the creature expresses its desire to end the battle there and surrounds itself with an overwhelming amount of mana. Shocked at such an absurd amount of mana, Yuha covers her eyes. Meanwhile, the creature unleashes its true form of hell wings and states that, since it is impossible to train Jian, it will acknowledge him as an enemy. Stating that it will reduce Jian and Yuha to ashes, the creature unleashes a very powerful hellbound flame, directing it towards Jian and causing Yuha to feel shocked. Soon after, another massive explosion erupts from the area, leaving the entire city in ruins. However, to the shock of the creature, Jian still stands unscathed, wearing the vinyl glove, stating that the creature is more useful than he thought. Looking at him, the creature considers it impossible for him to block the attack with a mere vinyl glove. In response, Jian smiles, stating that it will pay the price for lighting the city on fire by being the fire in his smithy for the rest of its life. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thanks for watching, the Baka Senpai.